Hello, it is Keely Miracle. I am back with transmission 2. Today I'm feeling compelled to talk about rejection. Uh, Rejection it's always been a fascinating topic to me. Maybe it's because, I have some interesting things going on in my chart, but primarily I'm an Aquarius sun. And I have a lot of heavy Pluto and heavy Saturn aspects. So I have a lot of experiences with alienation, with rejection, with not being recognized for who I am until I leave an environment, right? I sometimes find, especially in my younger life, most environments were unsupportive. Uh, just because, I wasn't working with the typical, and there were times when I really wanted to be. There were times I really, really wanted to be working with the typical. And now that I'm an adult, I absolutely see the value in not having done that. I absolutely see the value in a lot of the experiences that I had with rejection. Obviously, social pain is a real phenomenon and needs to be paid attention to. But I think my life got a lot better when I realized that it's okay to literally not be normal. It's fine. It's really fine. I strongly recommend it for character building. No, but in all seriousness, I think the Aquarian experience, your individuality makes you incredibly special. And you don't have to be Aquarius influenced to have this. This is actually going to be a collective theme over the next 20 years. Like, what makes you you? What makes you you? And how can you amplify that? Because that is going to be what keeps you around. That's going to be your magic. That's going to be your buy-in. That is going to be your invitation, right? What makes you you and how can you amplify it? So rather than spend your time thinking about where you're unsupported, where you're in an unsupportive environment, where you are, where you needed help and you didn't receive any, instead of thinking about that, really focus on identifying the support that you actually need. Really focus on figuring out what is me? What makes me so unique? How can I work with my environment? If you need to change it, you can change it. But first, how can I work with my environment? Sometimes exclusion is actually protection, right? You hear the rejection is protection, rejection is redirection, all of these, rhyming lessons that people have on, a real cause of social pain. But sometimes you don't actually allow that to sink in because you're still smarting from, well, I'm here and they don't want me here. I'm here and they're trying to make it clear that I'm not needed. I'm not wanted. And there is always somewhere where you are wanted. There is always somewhere where you are needed. It is up to you to actually respect yourself enough to call them in, to go to them, whichever approach you want to take. I mean, personally for me, I do everything in balance. So there are times when I've decided that seems more akin to a situation that I need to be in. Whether that was moving to California, choosing a different bar at night, choosing a different, choosing different social circles, choosing different experiences of art. That seems more akin to something that I want to be in. And sometimes it's just your gut, Sometimes you don't have to make it this super intellectual exercise. For me, it's definitely not. I literally go to cities and I will look at Google Maps and I will ask my intuition, where is it that I need to be? Where is it that I need to be? And I've had some of my, absolute best experiences um, in life that way. Looking at a map and going, well, where is it that I need to be? Find some place that seems, safe. Find some place that seems like a good starting point. Go there, have a conversation. Like that's how I've seen so many cities in my life and made so many interesting friends. And I didn't realize that I was doing it until I was maybe, probably about 25. And I was like, oh, that's what I've been doing this whole time. And people will travel with me and they're like, you always find the most amazing places. You know, the most amazing places, or rather, they'll travel to some place that I've been and they'll ask me, have you been to such and such? You always find the most amazing places. And I'll be like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And, go talk to this guy and talk to this woman. She's amazing. And they have this going on. And here's this really cool thing that's specific to this context. And I think you'll have a great time, and people end up having a great time because it's really gut centered. But anyway, that's one way to both seek out and call in an environment. There are times when you just know that something isn't for you any longer. And at that point, it's up to you to declare that something is no longer sufficient. And I think that's scary. I think that's scary for a lot of people because most people don't get practice with that. I was at a workshop on over the weekend, and it was like a joy workshop, but with a comedian. So we were doing some improv. This is very LA. We were doing some improv. We had a joy workshop, and someone was talking about jealousy. They're talking about, giving your jealousy a seat at the table. When I'm feeling jealous, I give it its time to, pardon me, give it its time to talk. I drink ginger tea in the mornings. So if you hear a little gastric joy, a little gastric expression of life, don't worry about it. Yeah. So we're at this workshop and we're talking about jealousy. And personally, I don't think I've ever really struggled with jealousy. I did struggle with rejection, with feeling alienated, with feeling excluded. It wasn't that I actually wanted what anybody else had. It was like I wanted to, I didn't want what any individual had. I wanted to be quote unquote normal. I wanted to keep pace with other people. I wanted to be a part of it, to be a part of things. Not saying that I never was, but I felt this kind of remove. I felt myself at this kind of remove. And how I use jealousy, I've never been an envious person ever. Envy is, I think, to me, when you put jealousy into action and you're willing to hurt people to get what it is that they have, you literally want to snatch something from their lives and you will harm them to do it. And that to me is a very scary emotion. But jealousy, in my experience of it, personally and professionally, it's like a desire indicator. It's a desire indicator. It's actually there to expand you. I think some people have to use jealousy because they have never been taught to affirm their own desires, right? So you're meeting people who've never been taught to affirm their own desires. So they can't say, actually, this isn't enough for me. They can't say, I actually really want that. And they can't, when they say I want something, there's no planet on which they believe they're going to get it. Right. So then that leaves you in a position to be jealous. That leaves you in a position to be envious because that person has it and she must have the only version. That person has it and they have to be the only possessor of it. And it's like, I never wanted exactly what someone else had because I knew there's always a part of me that knew whatever somebody else has is tailored for them. Right. So I never wanted secondhand anything. To this day, to this day, I try to get into things like thrifting. And it's like, if it didn't come from my own family, there's a good chance I don't really want it. I've done it for furniture, but I mean things like I'm talking about like clothes. I'm thinking about things that go on my body. I can maybe do jackets, but anything particularly intimate, I don't want it. I don't want secondhand. I don't want it. And it's not even like I'm not even hyper consumeristic. I just don't want it. It's got to be made for me. Like I have a lot of clothes that are actually like made for me. And with the market, the way that it is, the way that it is now, the prices we're paying for like just all sorts of tiers of polyester blends. Yeah, get your stuff made. I don't know. That's a tangent. But anyway, with jealousy, some people just haven't been taught to affirm their own desires. So when they see somebody living their lives with something that looks appealing, they can't just say, oh, that looks really, really nice. I wonder what some version of that would look like for me. I wonder where I have room for that in my life. I wonder what in me is called to that. It doesn't that. This is why I don't find that joke online where it's like, I don't care that it happened to you. It should have happened to me instead. I don't find that funny. I don't find that funny at all. Like, not even a tee-hee. It's not funny to me because some people really do take it too far. Most people are joking, but some people really do take it too far. And I'm very conscious of what seeds that you plant, even in a joking manner in your own mind. Like the seeds that you plant produce a reality. I think jealous people, like chronically jealous people, especially envious people, create their own reality where they never get what they want. They manifest these things for other people. It's actually really twisted. They manifest all these things for other people with their hatred, with their jealousy, with their envy. And they produce a reality over and over again where it's never them. Or for it to be them, they have to go through some dark act of violence. They have to go through some sort of treachery. They have to like do something untoward to have it. And that is a really sad place for your perception to be. And we know that our perception, like ground rule here, we know that our perception creates our reality, right? So there's obviously collective reality. There's obviously, a collective reality we cobble together, right? There's a collective reality. There's certain things that we agree upon. And then there's your personal reality. So when we're talking about jealousy, envy, exclusion, rejection, all of these things, it's like, I think it's an invitation. It's really an invitation for you to start expanding your worldview, to start expanding what you believe is possible for you. Nobody's expecting you to do that when you're a kid because you don't necessarily have that sort of agency, autonomy, executive function. It's a lot harder when you're a kid to just comfortably be an individual, which I think I find adulthood a lot easier than a lot of people because I went through so much as a kid. I went through so much scorn sometimes. I was sometimes celebrated for my quirkiness, but I also went through a lot of scorn. And now I know there's nothing I can do to kind of fit in. There's nothing I can do to make me palatable to the masses. And I don't want to be, because to be palatable to the masses, you can't really have a solid core. You know, it's difficult to have a solid core and be palatable to the masses unless you have really gotten to that level of magnetization where you've decided that gets to be the case. Like I decide lots of people get to find me relevant, enjoy my work, learn from me, appreciate me, enjoy me, think I'm great just because that's how it gets to be for me. That's how it gets to be for me. But that never has to come as a result of self-compromise. That's what I learned when I was younger. Because I think we kind of get the message that we can whittle off pieces of ourselves to kind of keep a balance, to kind of fit in, to, maintain some sort of social contract. And when we get older, if we haven't learned to withstand a little bit of rejection, a little bit of exclusion, you're always spending your life towing this line, towing this invisible line. And it's not really there, but it's there in your head. And it keeps you from doing what it is that you came to do. I think there's a space for every one of us, or we wouldn't be here. There's a reason each of us incarnated now here. We all have gifts. We all have our wounding. We all have healthy ego and unhealthy ego. So there's a reason you're here. And there's a space that you occupy in the world. When you're trying to pretend that that's not the case, so that you can fit in, you're not taking up your appropriate space. You're not taking up the right amount of space. You're not taking up the right space, period. You're actually probably preventing someone else from getting into their space too. I've always said this for years. Excuse me. I've said this for years, but you have to get into your own alignment so that everyone else can get into theirs. Sometimes when I work with people pleasers, recovering or current, that helps them a lot because they have to know that they're doing a service to themselves and to the world at large by allowing themselves to take up the space that they came to occupy. It's like if somebody is the most phenomenal artist on the planet, and art comes in a lot of different forms. So don't take this analogy the wrong way, but if somebody is meant to be a phenomenal artist and they force themselves through med school, doctors are artists too, but they force themselves through med school because that's what they think they're supposed to do. I don't know. I feel like I'm going to wait until like affirmative action waters, but since that's not a thing anymore, it's like there's a certain number of seats for every class. So if that person had, after undergrad, gone and pursued their art full tilt, and we're not going to talk about the economic pressures, but had they gone and pursued their art full tilt for a year or two after college, right? Before they think of doing med school, if they had really full tilt, full discipline, applied themselves to their art for a year or two, there was probably a good chance that they would not have gone to medical school, right? And you meet people who are in distress because they're following these paths that are theoretically unaligned. You're always getting to the right place. You're always getting to the right place. Let's not forget it. But it's like you can choose sometimes your level of pain, discomfort, crashing out. Like you have some control over that by how often you choose to honor your intuition. Yeah. Okay. Rejection, unsupportive environments, taking yourself to where it is that you are wanted and appreciated and not the superficial version of you. I go to a bar in my neighborhood. There's a couple of people there and it's like, you can tell they're really not being themselves, but the version that they're being at the bar is like their big man on campus. So it's giving them what they theoretically need, right? It's giving them some sort of purpose. It's giving them some sort of fulfillment. Is it serving the rest of their lives? Absolutely not. So you want to make sure that you're in environments that actually serve you at the core, because that is what you get to choose. That's what you get to deserve. You know, I think I just want everyone to have a higher regard for themselves, a higher regard for yourself. Like, you get to be in places where you're welcomed and celebrated. That should be a norm for you. You shouldn't feel like you're trespassing in the world. You like on a regular basis. Not saying that you shouldn't push an envelope. Again, Aquarian, I love pushing an envelope, but you shouldn't feel like you're trespassing every day of your life, like you're cosplaying to somebody else, like you're just pretending so that you're not rejected, so that you're not ostracized. Like, that is really no way to live. You are not allowing yourself a life. You're allowing yourself an existence at that point. And I think that's some of the disconnect that I see with so many people right now. And again, these next 20 years, it's going to be, what makes you you? How can you celebrate that? What are you contributing to the collective by being such a potent individual? Yeah. I was I was doing the sacral activation tracks, and I have a custom that I use as well. I was doing the sacral activation track, and every time I listen to it, I have the keenest sense of freedom, just the most absolute sense of freedom. And then I go out into the world and it's reflected back at me. I just have the sense that it's all for me, that the world is here on a platter. The world is a canvas, and you can just enjoy your life. You can enjoy your life. You can cherish your living. Because it is a blessing and it is a privilege to be in relative safety. To be in relative safety, to have your faculties, to be able to dream, to be able to think of yourself. Yeah. Honor that. Again, these next 20 years are going to require a really high degree of self-acceptance. A high degree of self-acceptance. And when I'm talking about that sense of freedom, I think I grew up with perfectionistic women, really perfectionistic women. And it got passed down to me. So there were a lot of times I was afraid to put a foot wrong when life is quite naturally experimentation, you know? But I would be really, really in my head, which created a really imbalanced relationship between quote unquote feminine and masculine in my body, in my existence, in my energy field. Like, it really created an imbalance because I wanted to be so precise. And I'm still really precise. That's, it's not only bred into me, but I find intuition to be very precise. I do. I'm an intelligent person. I'm a highly logical person. Logic is quite stupid on its own because it makes sense of whatever you put in front of it. But logic with intuition, and intuition has its own logic as well. When you put those together, I think life gets really beautiful. But I think I can be so precise because I no longer feel like I have to be. I no longer feel like I have to be. I don't feel like anyone's going to jump out of a closet and yell at me. I don't feel like, and don't feel like that was my childhood. But I just mean, like, sometimes you feel like you're on candid camera and someone's going to jump out and go, gotcha. You're not. You're really not. So I think I've given myself the freedom to be so precise and so excellent in my work, so excellent in my living, because I don't feel the need. I don't feel the pressure anymore. I've learned how to deal with pressure. Pressure is like, instead of feeling like it's something shoving me somewhere I don't want to go, I feel it like a hug. I feel it like an embrace. Because that's also pressure, right? When you're getting held. Yeah. I'm doing in my power-based group this month, we're talking about money. But last month I was having all these revelations around like money and pressure. And it's like sometimes you're using a financial constraint as a healthy limit. You're substituting a financial constraint for some sort of healthy masculine energy in you. And it's like, that's very lofty. But when you think about it, or when you feel into it, you might start to notice its truth. So I noticed where I was holding that as true for me. It was not only from my lifetime, but it was some ancestral holdovers. I've talked about this before, but my great grandfather died unexpectedly, and the estate kind of just fell to pieces after. Like, he had it been stewarded properly, theoretically, that generation would have been in a different financial position, and the subsequent generations. So there was a lot that was quote unquote lost. Do I hold on to that now? No. Do I believe that it's some catastrophic? No, I don't. I don't, because obviously people survived. Obviously I'm here, right? People survived and in some contexts thrived. So, but it was left over. It was left over in the DNA, that the stress of that experience was left over in the DNA. And I used my sacral track on that too. And that was one of the freedom revelations that I had. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to be in Power Base this month, and I'm talking with them about money, because I have a thing. And this is something that I've dealt with. I have a second house Pluto. So when people come to me about money, or people talk with me about money, I expand them to the point where they make oodles and noodles of money. Oodles and oodles and oodles and oodles and oodles and oodles of money. Right? People have come back and told me about 52 million, right? And that they attribute to my influence. Now, Mars and Libra, the whole time I was doing that exchange, I wasn't necessarily requiring the amount that I required back. So I've had my own experiences with that. I've had to clear that. I've had to work on that. I've had to stabilize myself and make sure the exchange is clear and even, because you don't want to be resentful. You don't want to be upset. You don't want to feel like you're last in line, right? For your own gift. So anyway, I have this gift with money. I can multiply it no matter what. Anyway, talking to them with money this month. There's an importance. This is going back to that constraint as a healthy limit, as a healthy masculine energy. That makes us feel safe, right? And it's counterintuitive, because you would think, well, if I had more money, quote unquote, I can make myself feel safer. Like poverty feels very perilous. Not having what I want when I want it, that doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel perilous. But I mean, there's a safety in the reliability of the you won't have enough. There's a safety in the reliability of the struggle, because if it's what you know, it's what you know. It gets comfortable, right? So you may find yourself getting back into situations where you feel pressured, where you're feeling that embrace. So anyway, much to talk about, much to teach, much to learn. I'm excited because I always learn. Every time I teach about money, I always learn something. I always get something pointed out to me. Um, and it's always just a good experience. Every time I teach, I learn. And I'm so grateful for that, because I think that is part of a healthy exchange, teacher to student. I don't see it as some sort of like subordinate, um, like superior, inferior dynamic. I don't see it that way at all. I definitely see it as an exchange. Hey, I have some expertise here. Let me share it with you. And you tell me about your experience, because that's unique. Anyway. I don't think I have anything else to say about this. I think spirit has moved through me. My heart and my mind are clear. Thank you for listening.